Welcome back, guys. In this video I will show you how to create your own blockchain game with Cocos Creator. Really, it's gonna be two videos. In this video I will show you how to just create a game with Cocos Creator, and then we're going to use CocosBCX in order to add blockchain capabilities to our game and to really add this new dimension of crypto into our game. And the cool thing with blockchain gaming right now is that you as a developer have so many options. You can build your games in so many different ways, and you can pick the tools that you need. You know that recently we did a course in our academy where we showed you how to create games with Unity and Engine. And in this video we're going to use other tools because, as I told you, we're going to use Cocos Creator and CocosBCX. Cocos Creator is kind of like Unity. It is this graphical interface for developers to create games, and CocosBCX is the tool, the SDK and the library that we use in order to add crypto features. They also do have their own network, and they also support cross-chain interoperability, so that you can have assets and you can have items on many different blockchains and they can still talk with each other, which is pretty cool. And it's important to note that all tools have their own advantages and disadvantages. So you look at Engine, for example. The only thing you can do with Engine right now is to issue assets and to, for example, melt assets into Engine coins, and you can do Engine-backed assets, things like that. While CocosBCX has more features, so that you can do assets, you can do timers on chain, you can do randomness on chain, and so many other things that we talked about in our previous video about Cocos. So it's all about measuring pros and cons of each tool, and when you as a developer or as a game creator, when you're starting your game, you need to sit down and think about what features you need to cover and then pick the tools after you've thought through. And before we start, you should know, guys, that I went to New York in May, and you know that I met CocosBCX in New York at Consensus, and they did sponsor my trip to New York. So in that sense, they are sponsoring the channel, and it is of course amazing. We love our sponsors. Without further ado, let's get started and let's build games with Cocos. And so the first thing we have to do is to download and install Cocos Creator. Cocos Creator is this piece of software that allows us to create games with the Cocos game engine. And you know that I started to use Cocos game engine way back in 2013. This was at the start of my development career, and at that time I was playing around with different technologies, and then I stumbled upon Cocos. At that time Cocos Creator did not even exist, so that is how long time it was ago. And still, Cocos is the biggest game engine when it comes to open source mobile game engines. It is really a significant player in the space, and they have so many developers today as well. And the reason is because they have been in the field for so long. I mean, I remember myself starting with Cocos way back in 2012-13. But anyway, what you have to do is to Google Cocos Creator, and you will find this link right here. And then you click on it, you need to download it, and then you need to install it. So you just go click next, install like any other software. When you open Cocos Creator, you will have to create a new project. So when you have created a new project, you will see something like this. This is really the main window of Cocos Creator. And there are a few things that I want to show you here that you need to know before really diving deeper. The first thing is this area on the left. Here's where we have all our game objects. Right now we don't have any game object, but you see, if I go to assets, which we can see here at the left hand side, and I go into, let's see, I go into textures, and then I take my monster, which is an image that I downloaded from the internet previously, and then I drop this monster into the this area right here in the middle, into the scene. I drop it. You see that now we have a new game object in the scene. So you have your images here that you're building your game with. This is the main area where you place your different objects. This is the scene, and here you can rearrange the camera, you can rearrange the different objects, and so on and so forth. You know that when I click on an object, I can see different properties of the object here to the right. And for all of you who know Unity, this is very familiar to you. I mean, this is how Unity also works. That you have your assets here, you drop them into the scene, and then you can click on an object, and then you can change properties, and so on and so forth. And the good thing is that we can very easily compile our game and run it in the browser. So when we have built our game, we've dropped all the different assets, game objects, we have scripted our game, which I will also show you how to do it, because of course you need to add scripts to make your game more vivid and to make your game more finished, because at the end of the day you can only do so much by just drag and dropping. At the end of the day you need to do some programming in order to explain express your logic, in order to express what you want the computer to do. But when you've done everything, you can go here and you can click on this play button. And so when you click on the play button, you will see your game compiling, and then you will see it on the screen. I mean, right now we only have this image that we put in, that I just put in. Where is it? It's here. And so then you can continue building this. We can add the background, for example, like this. Boom. Let's put the background behind our dude. Then we can use tools here at the top to resize. So I can use the scale tool right here to make this background. Oops, here's the scale tool. Where is it? This one. To make the background bigger or smaller. Let's see. I want to make it a bit bigger. Then I want to move it into the middle. Let's go like this, and let's go like this. Then I want to make it even more bigger. Bam. Bam, like this, and then let's see, then I want to move it again. And so if I put it in some fashion like this, I can also see my canvas. This is what the player will see. You see this rectangle right here? This is what the player will see. So we can add assets, we can add objects outside of the main camera. And then in the future, you might move your character and the camera might follow the character, and then you will discover other game objects that are currently outside of the view. But anyway, you click on run, and now we have our game like this. And if you look here at the bottom, by the way, you also see some frames per second, you see some stats, but don't care about that. That is not very important. So that is how it works when you just do some simple drag and drop assets into the game. And once again, you have properties here. You can, for example, do some changes. When we click on our monster, we can, for example, change opacity, how transparent the guy is. So if I go from 255, which is the maximum, it means that the player is not transparent at all. I can go to something like 100, which will make him more transparent. So if I run the game now, you see that now this guy is more transparent. And you can really experiment it. You can even script it so the transparency changes, but that will need to happen in the script. So this is the basic interaction. The things you need to keep in mind is this panel right here, where you have like scale tool, move tool, rotate tool. For example, I can click on the rotate tool. I can rotate this guy. Let's see if I can actually do it. And then you have other tools. Let's see, rotate. I go like this, and then I can rotate him. And then you have other tools such as change the size freely, like this. We can do it as well with this tool. That is Gizmo, wrecked Gizmo. And yeah, so feel free to just play around and experiment here. So now that we know the basics, we can move forward and we can do some scripts. Now, scripts are also very easy to do. You really have to, first of all, just create a script by going here to assets. You can right click, you go to create, and then you choose TypeScript or JavaScript. We'll be using JavaScript. So just go here, it will create a new script, call it something. Let's see, just call it something. Let me rename it to, for example, game script, or actually a better thing would be player script, like this. And then you have to open it with a text editor. And here's where you need to have some programming knowledge. And this is why, in order to use Cocos Creator, you do need to have some basic programming knowledge. But I will just show you quickly. So if you have some programming knowledge, you will recognize this. So I'm just opening it with Atom, and then I bring it up to the screen. And this is the basic anatomy of a basic game object. So as you can see, we're creating a class. And this class has a few things. Number one, it has properties. And these properties are very interesting because you can set them through the properties tab. So when we create properties in code and then we connect them to a game object, a very cool thing will happen. When you later select the game object, these properties will be showing up here at the right. And I will actually show you how it looks like later on in this video. And you can set the variables that you want through the editor so that you can have a programmer geek guy, so you can hire a bunch of geeks. The geeks are sitting here creating code. Usually the geeks are not the best people to actually design the game. I mean, they're not really the best people to create how the game should be feeling, create the graphics, all of that. So usually you have geeks, they write the code. Then you have an artistic guy, like a hipster or something. You can choose it for yourself, but usually you will have someone in your team who can really sit and fine-tune the game. For example, you might be having a guy who only tries to get the perfect jumping. So so that when the player clicks jump, it is behaving smoothly and the camera feels good, everything feels good. I mean, it's all about tweaking variables. And if you have a geek, a developer such as me, for example, I mean, we get pretty tired of that. I don't want to sit here and tweak a variable for 10 hours trying to get the perfect jump. I solve problems. I write code, I write algorithms, that is my jam. Then you have another guy, the artistic guy, he can sit here and he can fine-tune the variables and the inputs. So that is why you as a developer, you have a very easy life here, because the only thing you need to do is to just define, for example, here I would be defining jump speed. I would be defining, jump force or whatever, movement force, movement speed, things like that. If I would be writing a script that controls the player, and then you have these properties shown to the graphic guy and to the game designer as properties here to the right, and then they can fine tune. This is really, really powerful. And so the way you connect a script to a game object is by going to game object, you click on it, then you go to add component, and then you go to other component, and let's see, actually, yeah, custom component. You go to custom component and then you will see your script here. So in this case, it is player script. So you add it. So now you know how to create scripts. We have not programmed anything yet, but I will show you how to do that. Now you know how to connect it to an object. So I've jumped a few steps, but don't worry, because the only thing I've done is that I've added a new game object, which is the score. And then I've added some scripts that I will show to you. But first of all, let's see how this game looks like, because this is really the finished game that we're going for. And as you can see, we have a game that is just this blob, and he is running around. You can control him, and he collects stars. And if the star goes blank, if it fades out, then the game will restart because you have lost. Let's see, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I've lost, see, because it faded out. So you really need to collect stars before they fade out, because the game restarts. So this is really the whole game. So don't worry. I know it's kind of a big jump since where we cut last time. Let me explain. So the first thing we have to understand is that basically all the changes did happen here in the scripts. We added these 3 scripts because if you look at the game objects, they are basically the same as we had in the last version, except for the fact that we now added a score game object. But really, if you look at the scripts, here's where the magic is, and here's where we need to look closely. So open up this script folder with a text editor. So I will just open Atom, and then I will go into player.js. And as you can see here, we have a few properties such as jump height, jump duration, max move speed, acceleration, and so on and so forth. And you remember that this is what I told you guys. This is what I told you. I, as a developer, I don't want to sit here and try to figure out the optimal jump duration, jump height, or acceleration. It's not my job. There is some artistic guy that will do it. So that is why I only define these properties. And the cool thing is when I do define the properties, and if you go back into the editor and then you click on the player, you see that we do have these properties right here. Let's see, I need to move it a bit to the right. Let me fix that. You see that when I connect the script to the object, I get jump height that I can change here in the editor. I can change jump direction, acceleration, and move speed. And this is very, very cool because I, as a developer, I don't want to fine tune that. I just take these variables as properties, and then the artistic guys will help me out. So this is the first thing that is important with this player script. Another important thing is just key down, key up. So when player presses down A key, and A key is moved to the left, because that is how games work. You press A, you move to the left, you press D, you move to the right. And we basically set these flags that if, we press A, then this flag is true, this variable x left is true, and if we press D, then x right is true, and vice versa if we release. So if it is the case that the player released A, so here he clicked on A, and here he released A, then okay, we no longer want to accelerate to the left, and the same is with D, we no longer want to accelerate to the right. And then these flags right here are used in the update function. And if you know anything about game development, you know about game loops, the fact that all games have a loop, and the update function will be running in each loop iteration. So this loop will be running basically 60 frames per second. Each frame this loop will be running, and usually your game will be running 60 frames per second. And what will happen is that your speed will be changed depending on the acceleration, which is set here in properties, meaning that it is set here in the editor, as we discussed. And then your speed will be changing in that fashion. And what's important here is that also your X position will be changing. So where you are on the X axis will be changing depending on your speed, which will be changing depending on the acceleration. And then, as always in games, you have this DT variable, which is delta time. This basically means that if you have a fast computer that is running 60 frames per second, and then you have a slow computer that can only maybe do, 10 frames per second, still the distance that the player moves should be the same. It doesn't matter how fast your computer is. If you have a slow computer, you will experience lag, but your character will still move equally fast. It will not move slower, because obviously, if you do have a fast computer, you might be having an advantage compared to computers that are running slower. So it's all about making sure that it doesn't matter how many screens per second the computer produces, the player will be moving equally much on all machines, but slower machines will experience lag. So this is important. What else is important? Well, we have some onload that we're loading, we're setting up these key listeners that if someone clicks up and down, but other than that, that's basically it. That's basically everything we need to care about. And then we have this endless jumping that is just happening over and over again, because if you look at the game, you will quickly see that this jumping, it never stops. We have an endless loop where the game just jumps, this character just jumps. And this logic is set up here that, hey, we have this move direction, move action that is going up, then we have move action going down, and then we say, hey, jump up, jump down, move up, move down, and repeat forever. That's basically what we're doing. So that was player.js. Then you also have start.js. This one is simpler. The only thing we're doing here is that if it is the case that that we are touching the player, we are destroying ourselves. So we call this function onPicked, which is here, and we just spawn new star and we destroy this current star, and then we increase the score, and that's basically it. What else do we have? Well, then you also have game.js, and this one handles the score, the label on the screen, and the game over, and basically that's it. And also it spawns new stars. So if you don't pick up the star, it will spawn a new one, but the game will also restart. Anyway guys, that's basically it. You see, it's pretty easy. I mean, if you know basic programming, you look at this and you just say, hey, that's amazing, that is easy. And also it's very good that you do have a lot of controls here in the UI, because normally a game development team will consist of some developers but also some artists, and obviously the artists will not write code, they don't understand code, so it's good that they can interact with the code through the properties bar here. Anyway guys, that is really it for this video. The next step for us is to actually use CocosBCX plugin for Cocos Creator, because that's an entirely own SDK, but it is a plugin for this. And the next step is really to start tracking this game on the blockchain. Maybe we can put this score on the blockchain. Really, I will have to think about exactly how we do it, but we will continue working with Cocos. Really, it's only the first steps we're taking right now, and we will be continuing, because this project is really solid in terms of technology. You know that Cocos has been around for so many years, and CocosBCX is building on top of Cocos. So I'm really excited. I hope you're excited, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day, and goodbye guys. Goodbye.